Here's a pitch on the way. He swings and fouls it off, and the man from Walla Walla will take that one home. Swing, there's a drive to left. That one is long gone.
Now, I might have been a small part of your life, but you've been a very large part of mine. And it's my privilege and honor to share with you the greatest game of all.
What is up, nation? AJ Reilly here with The Corner, a brand new episode to talk baseball, to talk Tigers, talk about what they did in San Francisco, and what hopefully they will do this upcoming series against the Kansas City Royals. And we're going to get into the peanut gallery where we're talking a little bit about Tarik Skubal and the skid that he is on right now. But before we get to all that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe to our YouTube page. Click that button, hit the subscribe and the bell, and also follow The Corner on Twitter at DSN at The Corner for Detroit Tigers news, baseball news, scorecards from games. Any information you need from the Tigers is going to be there at The Corner, so make sure that you follow us there. What I'm excited about today is we're actually going to introduce a new segment that's going to lead off, literally, the show every week. And it's called The Lead Off, and it's going to be news from around MLB and from around the league and different things that are going on, storylines, whatever fits the fancy of the leadoff. And this week, there is nothing else that should be talked about but this man right here, Freddie Freeman, who last weekend was back in Atlanta. It was an emotional scene. It was, I don't want to say oddly emotional, because you have this situation where this guy has spent so much time of his life, literally grew up in Atlanta, and is back there for the first time. But it did seem like it was a lot. And so over the course of the weekend, I've never seen an athlete with that much emotion during a game. When he got that standing ovation before his first at-bat, and it took a long time for him to compose himself and get into the box, there was something different. He was given his World Series ring this weekend, so there was all the emotions that flooded in with that. And I saw those videos, and I was like, I'm glad that Freddie's getting some closure. And honestly, I'd never thought more about it until Wednesday night. On Wednesday, there was a report from Doug Gottlieb that stated that Freeman's agent, during the free agency process, had withheld a final offer from the Atlanta Braves. In fact, Gottlieb tweeted, he said that Casey Close, Freeman's agent, never told Freddie Freeman about the Braves' final offer, and that is why Freddie Freeman fired him. He found out in Atlanta this weekend. It isn't rare to have that happen in the MLB, but it happened. Close knew Freddie would sign the deal taken, or he would sign the Atlanta deal basically, and he withheld that from him so that he would ultimately sign with the Dodgers for more money, is essentially what Gottlieb is saying occurred during this free agency process. And I read that tweet, and I didn't think much about it at first, but then I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I'm sitting here thinking, what is going on? And then I started to remember back to the free agency situation with Freddie Freeman. And I was like, you know what? Now that I think about it more, that did have a little bit of stink on it. It did have a little bit of this, something doesn't necessarily feel right. Now, I'm not saying that Gottlieb is correct, because actually Close fired back through Tom Verducci of Sports Illustrated via a tweet from Molly Knight, where she said that in a statement to Sports Illustrated on Wednesday night, Close said this, Freddie's former agent: "There's no truth whatsoever in what Doug Gottlieb recklessly tweeted. I would testify to that under oath. We are currently evaluating all legal options." And so when I read that tweet, I'm going, okay, what's the story? What's the situation? What do we make of all of this drama surrounding a guy that for all intents and purposes, is a good guy. He's a great baseball player. He was an integral part of the Braves' success over the last few years, specifically their World Series win last year. What do we make of this drama? And so I just started going through everything that I could go through. And I found an interview with Freddie Freeman before the series in Atlanta, and he walked into the media room and was already in tears. And it was a 13-minute interview. And he cried the entire time. Now, I'm not one to say men shouldn't cry, don't show emotion, but there's something telling when somebody shows that much emotion. And then we look back and we think about the way that the free agency went down for Freddie Freeman. And I sit back and I look and I go, something just doesn't seem right. I've always ascribed to, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then it's a freaking duck. And in a situation like this, you got a guy who is a lifelong Brave, was known as this generation's Mr. Brave, and you got the sense that he never wanted to leave Atlanta. But then, Atlanta traded for Matt Olson. And you could get the sense when they traded for Matt Olson that there was almost this feeling of betrayal. Freddie was in the dark. There was no idea that this was going to happen, and almost, like I said, a sense of betrayal. And yet, he signs with the Dodgers. He signs a 6-year, $162 million deal, which gives him an average annual value of about $27 million a year, which was not much different than what the Braves had actually offered him. The Braves ultimately had offered him a 5-year, $140 million deal. He countered, or his agent countered, I should say, with a couple of different offers, a 5-year offer and a 6-year offer, and gave him a 1-hour ultimatum is ultimately the way that it went down. 2 days later, the Braves traded for Matt Olson, and then on March 17th, Freddie Freeman signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I have never seen anything what I saw in Freddie Freeman over the last weekend. I've never seen that much emotion. I've never seen a guy go back to his hometown and exude that much of what might have been feeling. It was a situation where you look back and you almost feel for the guy, like he had one pulled over for him, like he was missing home, like he was homesick, like he could not compose himself to the point that he's got a towel in the interview and continuously wiping his eyes and his nose. And this drama is, I don't even know the word for it. It's incredible is what it is. First of all, the humanizing aspect of Freddie Freeman, to sit in front of cameras and to stand in front of that crowd in Atlanta and give an emotional speech to them, telling them that they will always love him, or he will always love them. Each and every one of them is what he said. Which then led to their clubhouse leader, Clayton Kershaw, making statements like, "I hope we're not playing second fiddle." And apparently the two have discussed that and all is good and all that, but it just seems like this is a major distraction that could become an issue for the Dodgers, especially if more evidence comes out. If there's more evidence that comes out that says that Close definitely hid that offer from Freddie, then where do we go from there? Because clearly, Freddie doesn't want to be a Dodger if that's the case. Now, I'm not saying that he won't perform. I'm not saying that he won't be somebody that does his best, because Freddie Freeman seems like a good guy that signed with the Dodgers. He's a Dodger for the next 6 years, and he's going to do what he can for the Dodgers over those next 6 years. But there's always something in the back of his mind of him missing Atlanta. And what's going to happen when they go back to Atlanta for a potential NLCS or an NLDS, or there's all these different question marks, and that can lead to consternation within a clubhouse. And it's very interesting to me that this far into the season, these reports break. And I don't know if it's media being media and waiting for the right opportunity to break this story. But when Freddie Freeman returned home to Atlanta, he found out, supposedly, that his agent had hid their final offer from him. Now, it tracks because we know that recently he has fired his agent. But some unnecessary or so much unnecessary drama for one of the game's truly good guys, and you can't help but feel sorry for the guy. It is very difficult to not have some kind of emotional reaction if you watch the interview that Freddie gave. Holding a towel, sitting there, addressing the media, can't even look them in the eye because he's distraught. You would literally have to have the emotional intelligence of a rock to not be moved by something like that. And you feel bad for the guy. I know this, in talking to friends and discussing the situation with them at length last night, this situation has created lifelong not friends, but fans for Freddie Freeman. I know in the end he's going to be fine. Listen, the guy's making a ton of money. He's getting to play baseball for a job. So it is difficult to feel sorry for the guy, but let's not forget that he's human. Atlanta is where he raised his family. Atlanta is where his son made friends. And he no longer lives in Atlanta. There is difficulty associated with that. There is emotion associated with that. And caught in the crosshairs of all this is one of the truly good guys in baseball. And I hope that the situation works out, and I hope there was nothing malicious that took place. I think there's going to be a lot more that comes out in the coming weeks of what really went down during that free agency. And the truth of the matter is we probably will never know the full extent. But what we do know is this: Freddie misses Atlanta, but he is a Dodger. And I expect him to still continue to be the best player that he can be for the Dodgers in that uniform. And that's going to do it for the leadoff in this episode of The Corner. So let's transition then, and let's talk about the team that we all care about. Let's talk about the Detroit Tigers and what they did in San Francisco. It was Splitsville, baby. They split the series like we talked about them needing to do. We said you cannot get swept. You have no more room for error in this season. There's no more getting swept. And they didn't. And in fact, they had a great opportunity to actually sweep this series. If you remember back to what I talked about on the preview for this series, I told you that the San Francisco Giants, they walk at a 10% clip. And in the first game, Tarik Skubal once again struggled. Only went 4 2/3 innings, gave up 4 hits, 3 runs, and walked 4 batters. 2 of those batters that he walked led directly to 3 of the runs that he gave up. Now, if we look at the game as a whole, if he doesn't walk those 2 batters, or let's say he only walks 1 of those 2 batters and only 1 of those 2 batters come back to score, the Tigers win that game. And I know that we could play the if, ands, and buts game all day long. I get that. But the offense actually did what they were supposed to do. They got 10 hits, 4 extra base hits, scratched across 3 runs. They did leave 8 men on base, but they were 3 for 10 with runners in scoring position. And we know that the Tigers traditionally have been, or this season, have been pretty darn good when they score 3 or more runs. Unfortunately, they just left 1 out there. And ended up being, after this game, I believe it was 26-12 if they score 3 or more runs. But then we get to Wednesday afternoon, a game that did not look good at the beginning. Alex Wood was dominating through the first 5 innings. He looked really good, but the bats still came alive. 9 hits. Eric Haas has a 2-run home run in the 6th inning, which proved to be the difference. Michael Fulmer worked out of a jam, win an inning in a 3rd, and really shut the door on the San Francisco Giants and has been pitching magnificently, which is unfortunate because he's potentially going to then become a trade candidate here at the trade deadline because people are definitely going to want his services. But if they don't come calling or you can't get the return that you want for Michael Fulmer, you lock him up for a few years to be the linchpin of your bullpen. But what I want to talk about specifically is something that I think in this series came to light. And that's the fact that Eric Haas probably should be our starting catcher for a while. And here's why. Over his last 9 appearances, going back to the Texas Rangers series, Eric Haas is slashing .323, .344, .677 with 189 weighted runs created, 89% better than league average. Over that span, he has 10 hits, 3 home runs, 2 doubles, 9 RBIs, and 5 of those RBIs came in the last 2 appearances, which gave the Tigers a lead. He hit a 3-run home run in Arizona, which gave them a 6-5 lead, and then he hit this home run in San Francisco, which gave him a 3-1 lead. It was a 2-run home run at that time. On the season, Haas is hitting .215. He's got an on-base percentage of .264 and a slugging percentage of .388. He's got an 84 weighted runs created, which is 16% below Major League average. But he does have 5 home runs. He's walking at a 6% base on ball rate, and he has a 26% strikeout rate. And so we compare that to Tucker Barnhart, who they traded for in the offseason to be the starting catcher, who's been a Gold Glove catcher. And looking at the defensive metrics, there's not much difference actually between these two catchers. So in that same span, going back to the Texas Rangers series, Barnhart is hitting .063, an on-base percentage of .167, and a slugging percentage of .063. 1 hit, a single. He's got a negative 28 weighted runs created, which is 128% below Major League average. He's got 1 hit. He's walked at 11% of the time, struck out 11% of the time over that span. For the season, he's hitting less than Eric Haas at .214, 1 point less, I get it. .265 on base percentage and a .241 slugging percentage. 0 home runs. 47 weighted runs created, 6.5% walk rate, so a slightly better walk rate than Eric Haas, but a 29.7% K rate. He is struggling, and I get it, right? We don't need a ton of offensive production from our catchers. AJ Hinch says, catch a win, get a hit. That's all he looks for. But the problem is, Tucker Barnhart is not getting a hit. And if Eric Haas can add extra base power and can put the bat on the ball, he needs to be starting, specifically in the sense that he is hot right now, and he needs to be the guy in the lineup every day until he starts to cool off or Tucker starts to hit the ball better. That's the San Francisco series. 1-1. The Tigers now sit at 29-45. They are 16 games below 500, and they turn their attention to the Kansas City Royals, who are coming to town this weekend for a 3-game series at Comerica Park. And look, if you're looking for good baseball, you're probably not going to get it this weekend. You have a team coming to town that has a worse run differential than the Detroit Tigers do. Not a great offensive team, not a great pitching team, not a great base running team, not a great defensive team. You're talking about 2 of the lower rung teams in Major League Baseball, but they still have to play the games. And if you're looking for a turnaround, building off of what you did in San Francisco and moving to a team that is not playing well, 3-game series, you're looking to win the series first and foremost, and potentially sweep the series for sure if you are the Detroit Tigers. In Game 1, Brad Keller, right-handed pitchers, going against to be determined for the Detroit Tigers. And this most likely means that Michael Pineda is going to be activated to start Friday night against the Royals. That would be my best guess. I have no inside information on that, but just looking at the way that the next 2 days are projected with Faedo and Brisky, it seems like a perfect spot to put Pineda back into the rotation, activating him from the IL. Let's talk about Brad Keller a little bit. He's 2-9 with a 4.56 ERA. He does have a 4.47 FIP, which is a little bit better. Means he's gotten maybe a little bit unlucky with balls not being converted into outs. He does have a 5.81 K per 9 rate, so he's striking out about 6 batters per 9. but he's also walking about 3 batters per 9. And you're going to catch a theme when I read these numbers to you when it comes to the starting pitchers. So definite opportunity for the Tigers to be patient, to work at bats, hopefully draw walks, and get men on base. Because we've seen how detrimental walks can be when teams are drawing them, a la Skubal, and the amount of walks that we've given up since Sunday in Arizona, and the last 2 games in San Francisco. Game 2 is going to be a battle of the Florida Gators. Brady Singer, who's 3-3 with a 4.50 ERA and a 4.20 FIP. He's like I said, he's 3-3. He does have a batting average on balls in play of 285. He's striking out about 8 batters per 9 innings and walking almost 2 batters per 9 innings. So definitely going to have our work cut out for us in Game 2 with Brady Singer. He's going to be squaring off against Alex Faedo, who has been struggling. We know that Faedo has been struggling. He's 1-4 with a 7 strikeout per 9 rate, a 3 walk per 9 rate. His batting average on balls in play is massive at 3.22, and he's got an elevated ERA because he has struggled. And we talked about that last episode. Why are the young guns struggling? They need to make adjustments. And in Game 3, we're going to get another young gun. Bo Brisky's going to face off against Chris Bubik, who is a left-handed pitcher. He's 1-5 he walks about 5 batters per 9 innings. He strikes out about 7.5 batters per 9 innings. A huge batting average in balls in play at 3.55 and a 7.45 ERA with a 5.56 WHIP, which indicates that he has gotten a little bit unlucky. But Brisky's not fared any better. Brisky's only striking out about 6 per 9. He's walking almost 3 per 9. His batting average on balls in play is actually pretty low at 2.43, which is good. But his ERA and FIP comparisons show that he's actually not pitched as well as what would be indicated. He's got a 4.55 ERA and a 5.59 FIP. So definitely important that our pitching keeps us in the game, and very important that our approach at the plate is very patient, that we work counts, that we jump on pitches that are in the zone, that we're not chasing, because there are walks to be drawn, and if you can get an inning started with a walk and get a hit behind that, now you got a rally started. And so it's very important that the offense continues to put the ball in play as they have been doing and get to these pitchers early. So we talked in these series previews. We've said, what is the team that we're facing? What do they do well and what don't they do? I searched and searched about what the Royals do well, and I'm telling you, it ain't much, okay? There's a definite opportunity, but I don't want to put the cart before the horse on this situation either, because the Tigers have to win games. They have to play the game. You can only beat the team that's in front of you. So you can't take the team lightly, especially the Kansas City Royals, who have always, seemingly since 2013-14, been a pain in the side of the Detroit Tigers. So they're just about, here's some things that they do well. They're just about middle of the road in plate discipline. They'll work in a count, which can be dangerous for our guys that walk a lot of batters. They're a decent base running team, but they do have a just below average at 91 weighted runs created. So keeping them off the bases is operation number 1, like main priority. But the other thing that they do well is number 15, the Tiger Killer, Whit Merrifield. Against the Tigers in his career, he hits .331, .364 on base percentage, .531 slugging. He's stolen 27 bases against us, gotten 134 hits, 24 of them doubles, 7 of them triples, 11 of them home runs. Now, there's a statistic on Baseball Reference called the top statistic, which shows you how well players perform over their averages, basically their splits. 100 being that average mark, and against the Tigers, Whit Merrifield's a 135. So he plays above his level when he plays the Tigers. That's why we call him a Tiger Killer. He's taken on that mantle. It seems like they can never get him out. It's Jose Abreu, it's Whit Merrifield. So keeping him off the bases is going to be key. But what don't the Royals do well? They're the second worst pitching staff according to Fangraphs. They walk 4 batters per 9 innings. They have a 304 batting average on balls in play, a team ERA of 4.99, and a FIP of 4.51, so not much better. Like, they're just not a very great pitching staff. They also are 5th worst in the power metric ISO, so they don't hit for much power. And they have the 4th fewest home runs in Major League Baseball. It's a great opportunity this weekend for the Tigers. A great opportunity for the Tigers to get at least 2 more wins. Again, I'm going back to the fact of if they do not win this series, it's an utter failure. It's a complete utter failure. No more silver linings to look for because this team has got to win baseball games. And there's no better opportunity than this weekend against the Kansas City Royals. So let's move to the peanut gallery. And let's talk about Tarik Skubal and the skid that Tarik Skubal is on. Skubal struggled. On the season, overall he's still been pretty good. On the season, he's striking out 9.5 batters per 9 innings, walking 2.25 batters per 9 innings. But his batting average on balls in play is .317. He's got a .375 ERA, but his FIP shows that he's been a little bit unlucky. .272 FIP. Remember, you can read that like an ERA. We would take a .270 ERA, but it only accounts for the way in which he pitches. It's pitching dependent, not what happens in the field. We can really look at a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation right now with Tarik Skubal. His first 11 starts, 9.5 batters struck out per 9, only 1.3 batters walked per 9, a .290 batting average on balls in play, a .233 ERA, and a .209 FIP. Fantastic over those 11 starts. Fantastic. Like ace of the staff stuff. And then we started talking about him being the ace of the staff, and then he stopped being the ace of the staff. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I have an idea. Let's look at the last 4 starts. His first 11 starts, fantastic. His last 4 starts, not fantastic. 9.3 batters struck out per 9, 5.4 batters walked per 9. Command has been lost. Cannot find the strike zone. His batting average on balls in play over the last 4 starts, 400. Ted Williams kind of stuff. An 8.84 ERA, and a 4.98 FIP. Not great. We know that's why it's called a skid. Not great. So I was looking at his pitches, and I went back and I watched his start again, and I'm looking at all these different things of what is going on with Tarik Skubal. This is the guy that's supposed to be leading our staff, and he's just not. I looked at his pitch. He's got a 5-pitch mix. He's got a 4-seam fastball. He's got a sinker, throws a cutter, throws a changeup, throws a cutter slider, throws a changeup, throws a curveball. His best pitch is his sinker, which he throws in the strike zone 62% of the time, compared to his 4-seam fastball, which you would think would be more controllable, only 60% of the time. His slider, he gets into the zone about 55% of the time, which it's an out pitch. Sometimes it's used as a waste. I get it. So that slider percentage is probably not going to be up there. He throws that sinker on average at 94.1 miles per hour, and he's topped out on the sinker at 99. But he only throws that pitch 19% of the time. He's very reliant on the slider and very reliant on the fastball, the 4-seam fastball. But one of his more devastating pitches that if he can control, that's going to make him that much better, is his changeup. It clocks in at 82 miles per hour. Notice that difference, a 12 mile per hour difference between his sinker and his changeup. But he only throws it for a strike about 36% of the time, which is not good. And I went back and I watched the start. And when Tarik Skubal misses the strike zone, he misses the strike zone. Not even tempting to hitters to try and hit the baseball. So it's a matter of zone control. It's a matter of finding the edges and living on the edges and finding a way to get that sinker going down into right-handed batters, into left-handed hitters, working and mixing that slider in with the sinker, the changeup fading away from right-handed hitters, fading into left-handed hitters if you want to take that route. But he's got to utilize that sinker a little bit better, and he's got to master the control of the changeup if he wants to turn things around. He has one of the hardest hit rates on any of his pitches in Major League Baseball. He's way up there. He's getting the ball hit hard off of him, which is not great because he's not working himself into good pitcher-friendly counts because of his lack of control. And I think A.J. Hinch even commented on this because it's not just a physical thing, but it's also a bit of a mental thing. And we talked about adjustments on episode 10 of The Corner for the young guns and how they need to really start to make adjustments to the league strategically. But there's also an adjustment mentally that needs to take place as well. Because you notice sometimes when Skubal does not get a pitch that he thought was a good pitch, but the umpire doesn't call it, it tends to affect the pitches moving forward. He's got to find a way to put it away and be in the moment for the pitch that is currently coming up. Controlling that zone, utilizing the changeup, utilizing the sinker, getting more swings and misses, which he's got a great whiff rate. But he's got to find a way to move from pitch to pitch without letting the last result affect the way that he is moving forward. Listen, when your walk rate jumps from one batter, if we round down, one batter per 9 innings to 5 batters per 9 innings, clearly something is off. Mechanically, maybe his landing spot, he didn't look comfortable in San Francisco. Maybe it's the placement of his landing foot, the way he recoils, the way his follow-through is. There's something mechanically going on there, but it could also be pitch selection. If he's not selecting pitches that he's thrown consistently for strikes or can control on the outer edges and fringes and rails of the plate, then we got to get to a place where we're starting to utilize those pitches more, getting to a place where he can be effective and using effective misses to make batters swing and miss, as opposed to pitches that aren't even close, that are complete wastes. He's good enough to turn it around. Listen, Skubal's my guy. I've been preaching and riding the Skubal train for at least 2 years now, saying this is going to be the ace of our staff. This is going to be the guy when all of the young guys are healthy. It's Skubal and then everybody else. Casey Mize, Matt Manning, all those guys come second to Tarik Skubal in my mind, given his arsenal and given his ability. Sure, he wasn't a high draft pick, but he's my guy because I think that he's got it, and we've seen it. We saw it through those first 11 starts. He's got to get back to the fact that he knows he can dominate, that he knows he can go out there and do what he did in those first 11 starts. Go back and watch the tape. Get the feel-goods going again. Because we need him. We need Skubal to be the ace of this staff. Hopefully he'll turn it around. Hopefully he'll look at that pitch selection. Hopefully he'll look at that mental game. He's not going to pitch against Kansas City. He'll pitch in the next series over the 4th of July holiday and moving forward. Hopefully there's adjustments made. Hopefully we work on that mental aspect because I love watching Skubal pitch. He's really good. He just hasn't been, but he can be again. Here's the deal. That's going to do it for us on the corner. The Kansas City Royals come into town this weekend for a 3-game set. If we don't win 2 out of 3 games, it will be an utter failure. It's time for the offense to take over. It's time for the pitching to step up. Hopefully we're welcoming Michael Pineda back on Friday to go out there and throw a good game. Bullpen still is rocking and doing well, even though they've had a few blips. But according to Fangraphs, they're still top 5 in the MLB. This is a perfect opportunity for the Tigers to continue to build towards turning things around, going into the dog days of summer, and then ultimately for the future. This is The Corner. I am AJ Reilly, and I will see you next week before the start of the series over the 4th of July holiday. And until then, as always, go Tigers.
Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on the way.